Think about the friend everyone loves, the one who remembers your coffee order, who texts you during your worst week just to check in, who somehow always has the right words when you're falling apart. Now imagine that same person, alone in their room at 11 at night, picking apart every sentence they said that day, convinced they were too much, too needy, too annoying for the people they just spent hours comforting. That contradiction feels impossible, right? How can someone radiate warmth toward everyone except themselves? But here's the strange truth. This isn't rare. It's one of the most common psychological patterns out there. And once you understand why it happens, you'll probably recognize it in someone you love, maybe even in yourself. We tend to assume that kindness comes from a place of self-worth, that you have to love yourself first before you can really love anyone else. It sounds nice, it's on a mug somewhere, but psychology tells a messier story. A lot of kindness isn't born from abundance at all. It's born from fear, specifically the fear of being a burden, of taking up space, of being seen as difficult. So the brain does something quietly brilliant and quietly tragic at the same time. It builds an identity around being useful to others, because being useful feels safer than simply being. Think about a kid who grew up in a house where love felt conditional. Maybe a parent's mood ran the weather in that home, and the only way to stay safe was to read the room, smooth things over, never cause a problem. That kid learns, fast, that their value is tied to what they can do for someone else, not who they inherently are. Psychologists sometimes call this fawning, a lesser-known cousin of fight, flight, and freeze. Instead of confronting a threat, the nervous system appeases it. It pleases its way to safety. And the wild part is, this can become so automatic that years later, that same person has no idea they're still operating from that old survival code. They just think they're a nice person.
Here's where it gets even more interesting. Self-compassion researcher Kristen Neff has spent years showing that self-kindness and other kindness are supposed to run on the same internal circuitry. They're meant to be mirror images of each other, but for people who grew up associating their own needs with danger or disappointment, that circuit gets rerouted. The kindness flows outward beautifully, but the return path, the part that lets compassion flow back toward the self, gets blocked. It's like a river that was dammed up on one side. The water still moves, just never back home. And let's talk about the inner voice for a second, because this is where the cruelty really lives. For most people who struggle with this, the inner critic isn't loud and dramatic. It's quiet. It's almost polite. It doesn't scream you're worthless. It whispers things like, "Don't make this about you," or "You're being dramatic," or "They have it worse. Why are you even upset?" That voice sounds reasonable. That's what makes it so dangerous. It disguises self-abandonment as humility. There's also a sneaky cognitive trick happening underneath all of this, something psychologists call asymmetric attribution. When something good happens, because of this person's kindness, their brain credits luck, timing, or the other person's resilience. But when something goes wrong, even something completely outside their control, their brain credits them immediately and personally. Heads, they got lucky. Tails, they failed. Over years, that math rewires how someone sees themselves entirely, even while the evidence of their character, their patience, their generosity is sitting right there in front of everyone else. So why are they so good at reading and soothing other people's pain? Because they've had so much practice managing pain in general, just never their own. It's a bit like a doctor who specializes in treating a disease they secretly carry themselves, but never lets anyone examine. The skill is real, the compassion is real. It's just been pointed in one direction for so long that turning it inward feels almost unnatural, like writing with the wrong hand.
But here's the part that should give you a little hope. The same neuroplasticity that built this pattern can rebuild it differently. Self-compassion isn't some fixed trait you either have or don't. It's a skill, and skills can be trained the same way you'd train a muscle you forgot you had. It starts small, noticing the harsh inner voice and asking, would I ever say this to my best friend? That tiny pause, that flicker of self-awareness is the first crack in the dam. If you've recognized yourself in any of this, I want you to sit with something for a second. The same heart that makes you generous, attentive, and safe for other people deserves to receive that exact same energy. Not because you're broken and need fixing, but because the very fact that you can love so deeply means you already have everything required to eventually turn that love inward. You're not lacking the ability, you're just out of practice pointing it at yourself. So, here's a small experiment for you this week. The next time you catch yourself comforting someone, pause for a second afterward and ask yourself what you would say to you, in the exact tone, with the exact patience. Try saying it, even just once. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments whether you saw yourself in this. And if you want more of these honest dives into the quieter corners of the mind, stick around because we're just getting started.